All right, welcome to our webinar today, and thank you for being patient. Unfortunately, we did have some technical difficulties getting this set up today, so we are going to go ahead and jump in. Our topic today is proper application and maintenance of traffic-bearing deck coatings. Our presenter is Tim Panic. Tim began his career in the construction industry in 1998 as an inside sales representative. He then advanced to roles in outside sales, production specialist, regional manager, and strategic account manager across various companies within the industry. In 2011, he began specializing in concrete restoration. In March 2024, he joined Mapei as a business development leader for parking structures. Just as a housekeeping item, if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in our question and answer box. And at the very end, we will have Tim answer some of your questions. All right, now without further ado, Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Brianna?
Yes, all good.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about the delay there. We're having some issues on my end. I think Brianna's probably ready to pull her hair out trying to figure that out with me, but I appreciate everybody coming on today. As she said, we'll be talking about proper application and maintenance of traffic-bearing deck coatings. We'll also go over the Mapei Mapefloor system as well. So we'll jump right in here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to go over is the objectives of the training. Brianna, did that slide move? Because it's not moving on my end.
Yes, yep. We're on the second slide from our point of view.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. I apologize, everybody. So what we're going to go over today, we're going to understand the basics of elastomeric waterproof coatings for parking decks, identify the basic prep and repairs needed before the application of a urethane system, determine the basic materials and methods used to install the two-component urethane systems, and recognize common causes and remedies during the application of these systems. Okay, so before we get into any of that, we'll go, what are they designed to do? Obviously, waterproof both new and existing parking structures. I'm seeing quite a few new structures going up with no traffic-bearing coatings on them, which is usually a VE, being value engineered. They're taking out something because the project got a little bit too expensive in a lot of cases. There are some applications where there's a water repellent put on them, so at least something was put on. But I do highly recommend putting some type of protection over the concrete in a parking deck. What do the parking decks do? They protect against destructive agents on unprotected decks. Chloride ingress, which is a big one that gets into the concrete, attacks the steel reinforcement in the concrete, and which ends up causing spalls, cracks, all kinds of issues with the concrete substrate. Water leakage, water intrusion, probably the biggest issue with concrete decks and concrete in general. Water gets in, again, gets into the rebar, starts causing all kinds of issues with the concrete. You're in a parking garage, so you're going to have brake fluid, gas, battery acid, stuff like that's going to spill out onto the concrete, causing some issues. Carbon dioxide, which leads to carbonation, which gets into the concrete and will eventually reduce the alkalinity in the concrete, which will again attack the rebar, which will cause issues with the concrete substrate. De-icing products, depending on what part of the country you're in, colder climates, salts, other de-icing type products are going to cause issues with those as well. In the long run, what they do is what the deck coatings do is they prolong the life of the structure and they reduce overall maintenance costs. A parking deck without anything on it, usually within 5 to 10 years, there's quite a bit of maintenance that needs to be done on it, and sometimes reconstruction of whole areas, depending on how much damage there is, which can be very costly to the owner of the building or the parking garage. And then obviously, if there is a deck membrane on the deck, it's going to reduce the overall maintenance costs. With a traffic bearing coating on, you're usually looking at extending the life of that substrate by anywhere from 5 to 10 years without having to do with proper maintenance as well. So features and benefits of the deck coating, it's a seamless protective waterproofing barrier. With aggregate, you get it becomes slip resistant. Most products will bridge gaps up to an inch and 1/16 of an inch. Beyond that, you're going to have to route and repair with either a crack injection or a sealant. Superior UV resistance with the aliphatic products. Excellent tear and strength, very good elongation, so it works well with your freeze thaw cycle. And then it's usually a lot of people look at it as aesthetically pleasing. You're not looking at just bare concrete, so you can color it any color you want, and then you also have decorative aggregates as well. So where are they used? Most people that are on this have been in construction, so it's probably like I do. If I walk into a parking garage, I'm always looking at the coating that's on there to see what it is, what kind of coating it is. Ball games, you go there, same thing. Plaza decks, mechanical rooms, stadiums, anywhere that you're going to have either pedestrian or vehicular traffic, I highly recommend putting a traffic coating on. So we'll get in the application portion of this. So the most important step is surface prep, and we'll get into a couple things. So when you're putting on an existing parking garage, surface prep is very important. You got a lot of different things that can affect the concrete. You got delamination, scaling, latents and chalking, and then a lot of times you pull up some of that concrete to do a repair, you end up doing a full depth repair on it. What causes this stuff? Delamination can be anything from your de-icing salts, you're getting water getting into the concrete, causing that as well. Scaling, same thing. So what you want to do is when you're prepping your surface, make sure it's clean and latent free. Remove any grease, oils, etc. from it. Any bond inhibitors that might be on there. Traffic striping, asphalt, tar-based mastics. If there's silicone sealant, you want to make sure that's removed and cleaned up. And then remove the existing membrane if it's not in good shape. So you will definitely, if it's pretty bad, you definitely want to pull that up using shot blasting or some other methods, whatever you might want to do, and then repair all of your full depth areas as well. So I just mentioned shot blasting. So you want to get it to a CSP3 in accordance with ICRA guidelines. It allows the traffic deck coating to adhere to the substrate much better, gets into the surface pores to receive the coating and allow for a good adhesion. Other types of surface prep, you got caulking, as any repairs to any delamination or stuff or anything like that I mentioned earlier. Detail work, and then check your moisture content, which you can use a durometer for that to see what the moisture content is of the deck. And we'll get into these in the next couple slides. So the first thing is caulking. Like I said, you can route and seal cracks with polyurethane sealant. Sometimes you're going to look at an epoxy injection system for the cracks. So you get options on that. Check the existing caulking. If it's good, leave it. If it's bad, remove it and replace it. And then you definitely want to inspect the control and expansion joints. So if those need to be replaced, most times if they're doing a restoration on the parking deck, they're going to pull those out and put in new. Any repairs, use a fast setting cementitious repair mortar. I've also seen epoxy sand mixtures for smaller repairs as well. Any pop outs, chipped areas, any low spots, you want to make sure that you're repairing, filling in, and then grind off edges and sharp projections. One thing I will say on the concrete repair, make sure you're either rectangular or square. If you're in like a jigsaw puzzle configuration, and just filling that with a cementitious mortar to make a repair, it's going to fail eventually. It doesn't have it doesn't hold up over time. Detail work, 1-inch cant angle on the wall to floor intersections, around pipes, curbs, any elevations, and then route around drains and seal with polyurethane sealant. I've seen that quite a bit where the drain's the last thing that somebody thinks of, and we end up having issues around the drain. You get leaks around the base of it. So your typical system application. I'm going through this with speaking to a 2-component system. So you're going to start with a primer. It could be either epoxy or polyurethane. We'll get into these a little bit more as the presentation goes on. Then you have a base coat, which is high elongation, so it allows for quite a bit of movement. Will span cracks and gaps up to 1/16 of an inch, like I said. Aromatic top coat for your intermediate coat. You can also use your aliphatic top coat. And then your top coat is either aromatic or aliphatic. If you got direct sunlight, you definitely want to use the aliphatic top coat. It is UV resistant. The aromatic is not. And then your aggregate 1630 mesh silica quartz sand. So the first thing you're going to put on is your primer. You either got 100% epoxy, water-based, low solids epoxy, or a polyurethane-based. I highly recommend epoxy primers. They're good for if there's moisture in the deck. It's gonna keep that moisture from getting to your getting up into your urethane deck coating. Slab on grade, especially, and areas where there's high moisture, a lot of moisture, or very humid areas, you definitely want to use the epoxy. There are applications for the polyurethane as well, but I do recommend that you speak to somebody from a manufacturer at MAPEI or others, whoever you're speaking with, and ask them what they recommend. What this does, like I said, it protects the urethane from reacting with the high alkalis in the concrete substrate. And it's typically installed. There are some products out there that are primerless. There are applications for that, but again, I would definitely highly recommend speaking with a technical representative to find out if primerless system is great for your application. So the base coat, your next coat, it's used in 1 or 2 component systems. Like I said, I'm speaking to a 2-component system here. So you install the base coat within 24 hours of the installation of the primer. If it's beyond that, you have to reapply the primer. You can't go over that. It's going to lose its tackiness and lose its ability to protect that concrete or protect the system. You can install polyurethane base coat at 25 mils or about 60 square feet per gallon. Allow the base coat to cure anywhere from 3 to 10 hours, depending on humidity, temperature, etc. Top coat application, again, aromatic or aliphatic. If it's in a mechanical room, you can use aromatic, aliphatic if it's going to have direct sunlight hitting it. You 15 mils with this or 106 square feet per gallon. You then broadcast your silica quartz into it at 10 to 15 pounds per 100 square feet, and then back roll it. Back rolling is very important. Make sure that the aggregate gets into the polyurethane deck coating and settles in there properly. And with the top coat, you're usually looking at 8 to 10 hours for curing time. And again, this is going to depend on the environment that you're putting it down in. So again, the top coat application, this is for a heavy duty system. So you're going to put 1 top coat for the standard duty system. With a heavy duty, you're going to put a 2nd top coat on. This is put on at 15 mils. Immediately broadcast your quartz 1630 mesh silica quartz into it, and then back roll that as well. You're usually looking at 8 to 10 hours for curing on this. Again, depending on the environment you're putting down in, could be a little more, could be a little less. All right, so the traffic coating's down, and some issues that you might have. So troubleshooting, what could happen? You could have pinholes, blisters, or epoxy bleed through, and we'll go through each of these in the next couple slides. So for pinholes, basically voids in prepared concrete substrate, the coating slides into them, displaced air, you can end up with a small air bubble. The bubble breaks and leaves a pinhole. So what do you do with that? Use additional primer to seal the larger pores, or you can fill it with additional concrete or with additional deck coating primer, or either the additional coat of primer or urethane. So depending on how big it is, you're going to want to make sure that it's taken care of. If it's too large, you might want to look at another option. Application blisters usually happen because the material is put down too thick or more than the manufacturer recommended. How do you stop these from happening? Avoid pooling material in a given area. Make sure it's in the prime substrate, I should say. And then after curing, if there are blisters, cut them out and then fill with additional material to reapply the material. Moisture blisters, again, it's caused by excessive moisture in the deck. That's why you always want to make sure that you're checking if you're doing a job in the morning, make sure the dew's off the deck before you start putting on your deck coating. Make sure there's no standing water anywhere. Give it time to evaporate before you do start applying. These are usually smaller than the blisters that I spoke of earlier. What do you do with these? Again, cut them out and recoat them. Allow the area to dry completely before coating. That's an obvious one. Avoid coating on wet surfaces, which I already discussed. Check your dew point, and then make sure there's no moisture in your silica quartz that you're putting into the system. Next is epoxy bleed through. It's caused by putting membrane on prior before the epoxy primer is actually tack free. So what happens is it just ends up seeping through the urethane top coat and causing some issues. So what happens there? What do? Remove the bleed areas completely, grind, reprime, and apply new coating. Avoid coating on wet epoxy, which I just mentioned, and then avoid pooling epoxy when applying. Make sure it's in a nice even coat and there's no puddles of epoxy primer when you're putting it down. So I went through those pretty quick, but I think the important part of this for some people is going to be what's coming up here. Project's complete, now what? So I like to talk to building either managers, parking facility managers, or owners, and let them know they should have a maintenance plan in place after the parking deck is completed. So post-installation maintenance, it's going to allow for your parking deck to last a heck of a lot longer than it would if you just left it alone and waited till something popped up. So what do you want to do? Check visually. Just look, make sure there's no cracks, no wears. If there's any moisture, make sure you're getting that squeegeed up or even broomed just to get it to dry off quicker. Look for any signs of moisture infiltration coming through your urethane coating system, because then you probably have an issue that's coming from within your deck itself or from another area that it's not easy to see or figure out. Cleaning, make sure you're doing routine cleaning, getting any debris off the deck. Some of that stuff, cans, bottles, they can scratch the coating and cause some issues. Use a mild detergent and water for deeper cleaning. Avoid harsh chemicals because they will affect the deck coating itself. Any oil spills, stains, get rid of those quick before they penetrate into the coating and cause more issues. Make sure you're using appropriate cleaners and avoid using abrasive tools because those will affect the deck coating. Any repairs, address cracks immediately because a small crack can turn into a big crack. Use an epoxy or a suitable filler, whatever was recommended to use on that application. If left untreated, like I said, they're going to expand and crack. You're going to have bigger issues down the road. Reapply the coating. If the coating starts to wear, you can clean those areas up and put another layer on there. Again, make sure you're discussing this with the manufacturer so you're doing it correctly. Preventative measures, control traffic load. If there's weight limits on the garage, avoid overloading the surface. And then any pedestrian areas, put down mats or runners so that they're not getting where there's a lot of people walking in and out. Putting down a mat or runner will extend the life of the coating as well. Environmental conditions. Just be mindful of these. They can affect the coating. Extreme temperatures, either hot or cold, can impact the curing and adhesion. And then UV protection, ensure the coating has an adequate UV protection. If you're getting direct sunlight, make sure you're using an aliphatic product as opposed to an aromatic. This is probably the biggest one. When I've gone to look at garages in the past, ask a building manager for documentation, what's been done as far as their maintenance. And I'd say if I go to 10 of them, 5 of them have it. They don't know what's been done. They just don't know if there's been repairs done in the past, but they haven't kept up maintenance on or kept up documentation on it. Very important to keep records. You can extend the life of the garage, the traffic coating, and maintain a safe, functional, and visually appealing environment in the garage. And it also helps if you have different contractors working on a building, they know what was done before, what products were used, and stuff like that. So now we'll get into the Mapefloor parking deck systems. We have 3 different polyurethane systems: heavy-duty vehicular, light vehicular, and standard pedestrian. And we'll get into all of these in the next couple slides. And just another visual, you can see where these are used. The heavy duties use roofs and ramps, intermediate, light vehicular, maybe a parking spot, and then pedestrian, obviously, and pedestrian walkways. So the heavy duty vehicular system goes down at 44 mils total. That doesn't include the aggregate and the primer. So you're going to put down a primer, either the primer SN, which is the epoxy base that goes down to 9 to 15 mils, and then the polyurethane primer, which goes down to 3 to 5 mils. Again, depending on the application, I highly recommend using epoxy on most systems, but there are applications where you can get away with using the polyurethane. Your waterproofing membrane is the Mapefloor PU 400 FC. That goes down at 20 mils. And your intermediate coat could be either the Mapefloor 415, which is our aromatic, or the 450, which is our aliphatic, which is UV resistant. And then that goes down at 12 mils, and then the top coat is 12 mils again. Both of those, the intermediate and the top coat, you're putting full quartz and sand broadcast into both of those and then back rolling. And just a picture from our friends over in Italy. This was a heavy duty system that was done over there. And light vehicular, I should have said the heavy duty system, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to use those in drive lanes. You can use them helixes as well, or pavement booth areas where there's quite a bit of heavy traffic. We do have another system, which I'll speak to in a minute, that's even more robust than that. But light vehicular, these are going to be used in your parking stalls where you're not getting as much drive through in them. This system, again, the primer SN 9 to 15 mils with a quartz broadcast, and your PU goes down to 3 to 5, depending on what the situation is. You can pick either primer there. Your waterproofing membrane at 20 mils, and then your top coat, which is just one layer as opposed to the 2 that was in the heavy duty, that goes down at 15 mils. So you get a total of 35 mils for this light vehicular system. And you can see in the parking stalls, that's where you would be putting the light vehicular system. Standard pedestrian, again, for pedestrian walkways. Again, the primer goes down, same as it would for the other systems. Then you're putting 20 mil of the PU 400 FC, and then your top coat's going down at 12. So you got a total millage of 32 for your pedestrian systems. And just a picture of that. Extreme vehicular system. This is our urethane and epoxy hybrid system. Again, the primer you're putting down at 9 to 15 with a quartz broadcast for the epoxy system, or for the epoxy primer, or a 3 to 5 for the urethane. The PU, the waterproofing membrane, 20 mils, intermediate coat of Planiseal Traffic Coat, which is our epoxy-based traffic coating. Goes down to 20 mils with an aggregate broadcast, and then on top of that, you got a 40 mil for your final coat of the Planiseal Traffic Coat at 40 mils. We can also, if you're for this system, we can also add an aliphatic top coat on that if you're in a UV type situation where you're worried about direct sunlight. I recommend if you are looking at this system, give us a call for sure so we can design the right system for you. We'll go through, this is out of our, I just wanted to show this is out of our installation guide, makes it easy to figure out what products are needed, what millage and et cetera for each system. So we'll get into the components of the systems. The primer SN, using parking traffic deck systems. We're priming on the concrete. Reduces the interaction of the alkalinity, which I mentioned earlier. It also reduces outgassing for fluid applied waterproofing systems. It's a 2-component epoxy primer, fairly low odor, and can have light the sand broadcast in it, light the full sand broadcast in it. The primer PU, again, this is our urethane based product. Definitely don't want to use this on a slab on grade. It's used recoat primer for that's already, this is what you're going to use if you're going over an existing traffic coating that's already there. It's a 2-component polyurethane primer. It's quick setting, easy to apply, and it's used, like I said, it uses the recoat primer over sound in place membranes if you want to do a recoat. The Mapefloor PU 400FC, 2-component polyurethane base coat for traffic bearing surfaces, 750% elongation. So it's going to expand and contract up to 750%, and it's able to bridge gaps up to a 1/16 of an inch. Again, low odor, VOC compliant, fast cure time, and for a quicker turnaround, so you can get the garage or the mechanical room, as it's mentioned there, back into service. 415, Mapefloor 415 Finish is our aromatic product. 70 to 90% elongation on this. This is a top coat or an intermediate coat. Can be finished with sand broadcast, should be finished with sand broadcast to provide a texture for a non-slip surface. It's a highly attractive wear surface, high resistance to wear and abrasion, and then low odor and VOC compliant, so it can be used indoors. And then the 450 is our aliphatic product, UV resistant, 90 to 115% elongation. Got 9 standard colors. Got superior resistance to exterior applications exposed to sunlight. Very attractive product. High resistance to wear, and then it's impervious to water and chloride penetration. And then the Planiseal Traffic Coat, like I said, it's the epoxy product. It's a 2-component. Provides slip resistance when with a sand broadcast. Can be used for heavy duty applications, garages, pedestrian walkways, bridges, etc. Very durable. Provides a tenacious bond as it is an epoxy system. Fast curing with an early film strength, so it cures pretty quickly, and it's an easy 1-to-1 mixing ratio. We'll just get into a couple projects that we've done over the years here. This is one phase of a project in Mahwah, New Jersey, 23,000 square feet here. I believe there were 6 levels on this one, and this was just one of the levels that was done with our heavy-duty vehicular system. Clearwater Municipal Services Parking Garage, another that was done with our heavy-duty vehicular system. The LCB Parking Garage in Carson City, Nevada. 90,000 square feet, again, the heavy-duty vehicular system. Sierra North Garage in Reno, Nevada, again, the heavy-duty vehicular system. And the Broad Street Garage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Again, the heavy-duty vehicular system, 37,000 square feet. Quite a bit of concrete repair work done on all these as well. Some FRP done on some of these buildings as well. So we do have a full range of products to to restore parking garages. And that was very quick, and I am done with the presentation part, and we can open it up for questions.
Perfect. Great presentation, Tim. We do have a couple of questions. The first one, what type of sealant is recommended for use on parking decks?
Either a one component or a two component urethane sealant is recommended. The urethane will not stick to silicones, so if you want to stay away from those.
Perfect. Our next question is, which type of primer is recommended for use, epoxy or polyurethane?
As I said in the presentation, either or. I prefer epoxy in most situations. When you are doing a recoat, you're going to want to use the polyurethane though. So I'd say 95% of the time the epoxy system or the epoxy primer, and then for the other applications like recoating, go with the polyurethane.
Great. And our last question from the audience, where do you recommend using Planiseal epoxy traffic coating instead of Mapefloor traffic coating?
So any helix in a parking garage, anything that's going to have more than your normal amount of driving vehicles going over it. So any turn lanes, helixes, and payment booths would be my recommendation.
And I know I said that was our last question, but we actually did just have another one come through. What do you recommend for the interior wall and ceilings?
Our Elasticolor products, we got a wide range of those. I'm a big fan of our light reflective products for ceilings because it does cut down on the electric outage at a building. If a bright white on the ceilings or walls could definitely cut down on the electric bill at one of those facilities and makes it nice and bright, safer, etc.
Great. And the questions kind of keep coming. So our next one here, what determines choice for primer SN or PU?
Vapor drive is going to depend. It's really what you're looking at. So depending on how much moisture is in the concrete, depending on the humidity, anywhere in the U.S. where there's high humidity rates, like I said, I would recommend epoxy for most applications. But there are applications like a recoat because the polyurethane's you're putting down polyurethane on an existing coating that's there already. So the SN would definitely be most applications because you're worried about vapor drive coming up through the concrete, and that would affect the deck coating, and then the polyurethane primer on a recoat situation.
Great. And it looks like we have one more. What would you recommend for line striping?
That I don't have an answer for that right now. Somebody stump me.
No problem. Well, for that question and for any others that might pop up over the coming days, we'll definitely make sure to pass those along to Tim and he can get you an answer. So the best email for those questions would be mapeidigital@mapei.com. Thank you so much for presenting today, Tim, and thank you to our audience for attending.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Any questions, definitely let me know.